Commander Day-Wan stood at the observation window of Haven's Edge Station, staring at Earth's moon in the distance. His reflection in the glass showed a tired man with gray streaks in his black hair. 3 months had passed since humanity made the decision that changed everything. 3 months since they walked away from the Galactic Coalition's endless war. The station hummed with activity behind him. Soldiers moved through corridors, checking weapons and running drills. Scientists monitored screens filled with data. Everyone was nervous. Everyone was waiting for something to happen. Day-Wan felt the weight of their fear pressing on his shoulders. 15 years ago, first contact had seemed like a miracle. Ships appeared in Earth's orbit, bringing aliens who spoke of peace and cooperation. Humanity joined the Galactic Coalition with hope in their hearts. They thought they would explore the stars together. They thought they would learn and grow. Instead, the Coalition had other plans. Within months, human soldiers were being sent to fight the Vreth swarm, an insect-like species that had been at war with the Coalition for centuries. The Coalition said it was necessary. They said humanity had to contribute to the common defense. They said it was the price of membership. Day-Wan had fought in those wars. He had seen friends die on distant worlds he couldn't even pronounce. He had watched young soldiers burn in ship fires, suffocate in damaged suits and fall to Vreth claws. All for a war that wasn't theirs. All for conflicts that started before humans even invented writing. After 5 years of fighting, humanity had enough. The vote wasn't even close. Earth's government pulled out of the Coalition. They brought their soldiers home. They established new defensive lines around human space. No more fighting alien wars. No more dying for causes they didn't understand. The Coalition didn't like that. They sent ambassadors who threatened and pleaded. They said humanity was abandoning their duty. They said the withdrawal would weaken the defensive lines. They said humans were cowards. Day-Wan didn't care what they said. He had held too many dying soldiers in his arms. He had written too many letters to families. The war could burn through the galaxy for another 1,000 years. Humanity was done. A soft beep interrupted his thoughts. His communication device lit up with an incoming message. He tapped it, expecting another status report. Instead, Dr. Hana's face appeared on the screen. Her expression made his stomach tighten. "Day-Wan, we have a problem," she said. Her voice was calm, but he could hear the strain underneath. Kepler Station sent a distress signal. "They're under attack." Day-Wan's jaw clenched. Kepler Station was a mining colony near the neutral zone. 847 people lived there. Families, children, people who chose to build a life on the frontier. "The Vreth?" he asked. Hana shook her head. "Worse, Coalition forces. They're demanding the colonists convince Earth to return to the war." The station commander refused. "Now they're boarding the station." For a moment, Day-Wan couldn't speak. The Coalition was attacking humans? Their former allies? The species they fought beside for 5 years? "That's insane," he said. "High Command would never authorize that." "They didn't," Hana replied. "I've been monitoring Coalition communications. This is a rogue operation. An admiral named Velcros is leading it. He thinks humanity is hiding some kind of superweapon. He believes that's the real reason we withdrew. He wants to force us back into the war by taking hostages." Day-Wan turned from the window and strode toward the command center. His boots rang on the metal floor. Around him, crew members saw his expression and moved out of his way. They knew that look. Something bad was happening. "How long do they have?" he asked. "The station's shields are failing. Maybe 6 hours before life support starts to collapse. Maybe less if the Coalition forces breach the main habitation ring." Day-Wan reached the command center and moved to the main display. A holographic map of local space appeared, showing Kepler Station's location. It was 3 days away at maximum speed, too far. "Way too far! Get me Tae-Sung," he ordered. "And Bitna. Tell them to meet me in briefing room 2 in 10 minutes. Hana's face disappeared from the screen. Day-Wan studied the map, his mind racing. 6 Coalition warships surrounded Kepler Station according to the latest sensor data. His force had 3 cruisers and a handful of support ships. Not enough for a straight fight. But they had something the Coalition didn't expect. They had Captain Tae-Sung, the best pilot in the fleet. They had Engineer Bitna, who could make a broken coffee maker into a weapon if she had to. And they had the advantage of fighting for something that mattered. 10 minutes later, Day-Wan entered the briefing room. Tae-Sung was already there, his flight jacket worn and patched from years of service. Bitna arrived moments later, wiping grease from her hands. Both of them had heard about Kepler Station. Both of them looked ready to fight. "We're going after them," Daewon said without preamble. 847 people are trapped on that station. We're bringing them home. Taesung leaned forward. 3 days is too long. We need a faster route. There isn't one, Bitna said, pulling up a navigation chart. Not through normal space unless... She paused, her fingers moving across the display. Unless we cut through the Dendros asteroid field. It's dangerous, but it would save us 18 hours. Do it, Daewon said. Taesung, you'll take the Silent Promise through first. Scout the approach to Kepler Station. We need to know exactly what we're facing. Taesung nodded. And when I get there, don't engage. Just watch and wait. We'll be right behind you. Dr. Hana entered the room carrying a data pad. I should come with you, she said. I know Coalition protocols. Maybe I can negotiate with them. Daewon wanted to say no. Hana was a scientist, not a soldier. But she was also the best person they had for understanding alien thinking. If there was any chance to resolve this without bloodshed, she would find it. All right, he agreed. But you stay on the command ship. No heroics. Hana smiled slightly. I'll leave the heroics to you. Within the hour, 3 human cruisers and 2 support ships were moving away from Haven's Edge. Taesung's Silent Promise darted ahead, its stealth systems already engaged. Behind them, Earth's moon grew smaller in the distance. Daewon watched from the bridge of his flagship, the Defiant Hope. Around him, crew members worked at their stations. The ship's reactor hummed with power. Weapon systems were armed and ready, but Daewon hoped they wouldn't need them. He hoped this Admiral Velcross would see reason. He hoped this could end peacefully. Deep down, though, he knew better. Someone who would attack a civilian station wasn't looking for peace. They were looking for a fight. And if it was a fight they wanted, humanity would give them one. Not because humans loved war. Not because they were the strongest or the fastest. But because 847 people needed help, and humans didn't abandon their own. The fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed, leaving Earth's solar system behind. Ahead of them, 3 days of travel stretched out. 3 days to plan, 3 days to prepare, 3 days to hope they wouldn't arrive too late. The journey through the Dendros asteroid field tested every pilot's skill. Taesung guided the Silent Promise between massive rocks spinning through space. His hands moved across the controls with practiced ease. Behind him, the 3 cruisers followed, their larger hulls making the passage more dangerous. On the bridge of Defiant Hope, Daewon watched the asteroids slide past on the view screen. Each one was the size of a small mountain. A collision would tear through their shields like paper. But Bitna had been right. This route saved precious hours. Dr. Hana sat at a secondary console listening to intercepted Coalition communications. Her face grew darker with each transmission she decoded. Finally, she looked up at Daewon. It's worse than we thought, she said. Velcross isn't just after hostages. He truly believes we have some kind of weapon that could end the war. His messages to his fleet mention human technology that can turn the tide against the Vreth. Daewon frowned. We don't have anything like that. Our weapons are standard. Nothing special, I know, but Velcross doesn't believe it. He thinks we're hiding something. That's why we withdrew from the war. He's convinced that if he can capture Kepler Station, he'll find proof. Bitna joined them, her tablet showing technical readouts. There's something else. Kepler Station does have a research lab. They were working on mining technology mostly, but I found a reference to a project called Pacifier. It was classified. What kind of project? Daewon asked. I don't know yet. The files are locked, but if Velcross heard rumors about it, that might explain his obsession. Daewon rubbed his tired eyes. A secret project on Kepler Station. A paranoid Coalition admiral. And 847 people caught in the middle. The situation was getting more complicated by the hour. 2 days later, they cleared the asteroid field. Taesung's Silent Promise was already at the edge of Kepler Station's system, running silent. His reports came in as encrypted data bursts. 6 Coalition warships, just as expected. 2 were positioned to block escape routes. 4 surrounded the station itself. The station's shields flickered on the sensors, barely holding. Parts of the habitat ring showed as red on the damage display. The Coalition boarding parties were inside, cutting through bulkheads toward the main living areas. How long until we arrive? Daewon asked the navigation officer. 4 hours at current speed. 2 hours if we push the engines to maximum. Push them. Everyone brace for high-speed maneuvers. The three cruisers accelerated, their engines burning bright in the darkness of space. Taesung's next message was urgent. The coalition forces were increasing their assault. They had breached the outer sections of Kepler Station. Daewon assembled his strike team in the hangar bay. 30 Marines in combat armor stood ready. Bitna had her engineering kit. Dr. Hana insisted on coming despite his objections. She wanted to try to speak with the coalition soldiers face to face. Our objective is simple, Daewon told them. Get the colonists out. We're not starting a war with the coalition. We're not there to kill aliens. We're there to save humans. Understood? Yes, sir, the Marines answered in unison. Taesung's voice came through the communication system. I'm seeing movement. The coalition ships are repositioning. I think they detected your approach. Daewon smiled grimly. Good. Let them know humans were coming. Let them worry. When they arrived at Kepler Station, the sight made his heart sink. The beautiful rotating habitat ring that he remembered from the dedication ceremony 5 years ago was scarred with blast marks. Entire sections were exposed to space. Their atmosphere vented into the void. Bodies floated among the debris. Colonists who hadn't made it to shelter in time. The coalition warships turned to face the human fleet. They were bigger than Daewon's cruisers, better armed, newer designs. For a moment he wondered if this was a mistake. Then he remembered those 847 people. He remembered why humanity left the coalition in the first place. This is Commander Daewon of the Human Defense Fleet to coalition forces, he broadcast on open channels. You are attacking a civilian station. Withdraw immediately and there will be no further conflict. The response came from Admiral Velcros himself. The alien's face appeared on screen. He had 4 eyes arranged in a square pattern and skin that looked like rough stone. His voice came through the translator as harsh and angry. You will surrender the weapon technology you are hiding. You will return to the war effort, or your colonists will die. We have no weapon, Daewon said calmly. You're chasing rumors. Let the civilians evacuate and we can discuss this. Lies, Velcros shouted. We know you developed something that scared you enough to abandon your allies. Hand it over. The transmission cut off. Velcros was beyond reason. Daewon had expected this, but part of him had hoped for better. All ships defensive formation, he ordered. Prepare to launch rescue shuttles. Taesung, you're going in through the damaged section. Get to the colonists and start evacuation. On my way, Taesung replied. The silent promise streaked toward Kepler Station, moving too fast for the coalition ships to track. Taesung was brilliant at what he did. He threaded between debris and disabled station sections, finding a docking point that the coalition forces hadn't covered. Daewon's cruisers spread out, drawing fire from the coalition ships. The first energy blasts lit up the darkness. Shields flared and held. The human ships returned fire, aiming for weapons and engines rather than critical systems. They weren't trying to destroy the coalition fleet. Just keep them busy. Inside Kepler Station, Taesung and his team moved quickly through damaged corridors. Emergency lights cast everything in red. The station's gravity was failing in sections, making movement difficult. They found the first group of colonists in the agricultural dome, barricaded behind overturned equipment. We're here to get you out, Taesung announced. Stay close and follow my team. An older man stepped forward. He had a bandage wrapped around his head and blood on his shirt. Thank God you came. The aliens are 2 sections away. They're cutting through the blast doors. How many colonists are still scattered through the station? Maybe 300 in other shelters. The rest are here. Taesung did quick math. His ship could take maybe 50 people at once. It would take multiple trips, too slow. They needed another way. Bitna was already thinking ahead. She studied the station schematic on her portable display. The emergency escape pods. They're designed for exactly this situation. If we can reach the pod bay, we can launch everyone at once. The coalition forces are between us and the pod bay, the older colonist said. Then we go around, Bitna replied. She traced a route through the maintenance tunnels. It's a tight fit but possible, Taesung nodded. Get everyone moving. I'll take a team forward to clear the path. They split into groups. Taesung led 5 Marines deeper into the station. Behind them, Bitna guided the colonists through cramped tunnels barely wide enough for one person. Children cried. Adults tried to stay calm. Everyone moved as fast as they could. Taesung's team reached an intersection and froze. Voices echoed from ahead. not human voices. Coalition soldiers were searching the area, checking each room methodically. There were at least a dozen of them. Too many for a straight fight. One of the Marines raised his weapon, but Taesung pushed it down. He pointed to a ventilation shaft above them. They could bypass the coalition troops entirely if they climbed through the station's infrastructure. Quietly, carefully, they removed the vent cover and pulled themselves up. The shaft was dusty and dark. They crawled forward, hearing the coalition soldiers below them. Once an alien paused directly beneath their position. Taesung held his breath. The alien moved on. When they emerged, they were near the pod bay. Taesung's heart sank when he saw it. A coalition boarding party stood guard outside. 8 aliens in combat armor, carrying weapons that could cut through the station's walls. There was no way around them this time. If the colonists were going to escape, Taesung's team would have to fight. He checked his weapon and signaled his Marines to prepare. They had surprise on their side. They had motivation, and they had something the coalition soldiers might not expect. They had nothing left to lose. Taesung took a deep breath and stepped into the corridor. The coalition soldiers turned toward him. For a moment, nobody moved. Then everything exploded into chaos. The firefight lasted only seconds, but to Taesung it felt like hours. His team moved with practiced efficiency, using the corridor's corners for cover. Energy bolts scorched the walls. The coalition soldiers were well trained, but they weren't expecting resistance. They thought they were guarding against trapped colonists, not combat veterans. 2 aliens went down in the first exchange. The others scrambled for better positions. One of them, larger than the rest with deep blue armor, shouted something in his own language. His voice carried authority. A leader. Taesung focused on him. Take out the leader and the rest might falter. He fired 3 quick shots. The first 2 hit the alien's shield and dissipated. The third found a gap near the shoulder joint. The alien stumbled but didn't fall. These soldiers were tough. Grenades! One of the Marines shouted. A coalition soldier had pulled a spherical device from his belt. Taesung recognized it as a concussion grenade. In the enclosed corridor, it would kill everyone, human and alien alike. He didn't think. He just moved. He sprinted forward, keeping low. The alien's 4 eyes widened in surprise as Taesung tackled him. They crashed against the wall together. The grenade flew from the alien's hand and skittered across the floor. One of the Marines kicked it into a side room. The explosion shook the station, but the blast was contained. Taesung found himself face to face with the coalition soldier. Up close, he could see details the helmet cameras never captured. The alien's skin was covered in small scales. His breath smelled like copper. His eyes showed something Taesung didn't expect. Fear. Please, the alien said in broken English. No kill. Taesung stood up, keeping his weapon trained on the soldier. Around them, the firefight had stopped. 3 coalition soldiers were down, unconscious or dead. The other 5 had their hands raised. They were surrendering. The blue-armored leader spoke again. This time his translator worked properly. We don't want to fight you. We were ordered here. We were told you were dangerous. We're not the ones attacking civilian stations, Taesung replied. He kept his voice hard, but something about the situation felt wrong. These soldiers didn't act like fanatics. They acted like people who were scared and confused. Admiral Velcros is not well, the leader continued. Many of us can see it. He's obsessed with finding a weapon that probably doesn't exist. But orders are orders. One of the human Marines approached. Sir, what do we do with them? Taesung studied the coalition soldiers. They were young. Well, most species aged differently than humans, but they had that look. The look of people who joined the military expecting honor and adventure, only to find themselves doing things that kept them awake at night. Lock them in the storage room, Taesung decided. Take their weapons, but don't hurt them. This isn't their war either. As his team secured the coalition soldiers, Bitna arrived with the first group of colonists. She stopped short when she saw the aftermath of the fight. Scorch marks covered the walls. The smell of burned metal hung in the air. The pod bay is clear, Taesung told her. Start loading people up. We don't have much time. Bitna nodded and moved to the pod bay controls. The systems were damaged but functional. Emergency escape pods lined the walls, each one capable of holding 30 people. They weren't comfortable and they weren't fast, but they could get the colonists away from the station. Outside in space, Day One's fleet continued their desperate dance with the coalition warships. The human cruisers darted and weaved, their smaller size making them harder targets, but they were taking damage. Shield indicators dropped with each hit. One cruiser had lost power to its port weapons array. Dr. Hana worked frantically at the communication station, sending message after message to the Coalition fleet. She bypassed military channels and went straight to the civilian oversight networks. She broadcast evidence of Velcros's unauthorized attack, streaming it across open frequencies where anyone could see. "This is Dr. Hana of the Human Defense Fleet to all Coalition vessels," she repeated over and over. "Your admiral is acting without authorization. He is attacking civilians. Coalition law prohibits this. You don't have to follow illegal orders." For a long time, nothing changed. The Coalition ships kept firing. Then one of them stopped. Its weapons went dark. It pulled back from the formation. "One ship is breaking off," the tactical officer reported. "They're not engaging anymore." Day one felt a surge of hope. Hana's message was working. Not all the Coalition forces wanted this fight. But Velcros's flagship only intensified its assault. The massive ship turned toward Kepler Station itself, its engines burning bright. Day one's blood ran cold when he realized what the Admiral intended. "He's going to ram the station," he said quietly. Everyone on the bridge turned to look at the screen. The flagship was accelerating, aimed directly at Kepler Station's main habitat ring. At that speed, the collision would destroy everything. Every colonist still aboard would die instantly. "Can we intercept?" Day one asked. "Not in time," the navigation officer replied. "We're too far out of position." Day one gripped the arms of his chair. They had come so far, fought so hard, and now they were going to watch helplessly as a madman killed hundreds of people. On Kepler Station, Tae-sung saw the flagship's approach on the damaged sensors. He understood immediately what was happening. Around him, colonists were still loading into escape pods. Only half had launched so far. The others would never make it. Bitna saw it too. She ran to the station control panel, her fingers flying across the controls. "The station still has maneuvering thrusters," she said. "If we fire them all at once, we might push the station out of the flagship's path." "Might?" Tae-sung asked. "The thrusters are damaged. The reactor is failing. But it's our only chance. Do it." Bitna initiated the emergency burn sequence. Every thruster on the station fired simultaneously. The entire structure groaned and shuddered. The deck tilted under their feet. Colonists screamed as they were thrown against walls. The escape pods that hadn't launched yet broke free of their moorings. On Defiant Hope's bridge, Daewon watched Kepler Station slowly rotate in space. The thrusters were working, but would it be enough? The flagship was so close now, just seconds away from impact. "Come on," Dr. Hana whispered beside him. "Come on." The two massive objects hurtled toward each other. For an impossible moment, it looked like they would miss. The station rotated just enough. The flagship tried to correct its course but couldn't turn fast enough. Then the flagship clipped the edge of the habitat ring. Not a direct hit, but enough. The sound of tearing metal echoed through space. The habitat ring buckled and broke. Atmosphere vented in massive plumes. Debris scattered in every direction. The flagship spun out of control, its engines destroyed by the impact. Inside, Velcros's crew fought to regain control. But the damage was too severe. The great ship tumbled through space, powerless. On Kepler Station, emergency alarms screamed. Bitna grabbed Tae-sung's arm. "The reactor is going critical." The collision damage pushed it over the edge. "We have maybe 2 minutes before it explodes." Tae-sung looked around the pod bay. Most of the colonists were away, but not all. 3 pods remained, still loading the last civilians. Old folks who moved slowly. Children who were scared and crying. Medical cases who needed help to move. "Get them in the pods now," he ordered. "Leave everything else." His Marines lifted people bodily and carried them to the pods. An old woman protested, wanting to grab a bag of personal items. A Marine picked her up and put her in a pod anyway. There was no time for sentiment. No time for anything except survival. The last colonist entered a pod. The Marine sealed the door and slapped the launch button. The pod shot away from the dying station. Tae-sung counted quickly. Everyone was away except his team and Bitna. "Time to go," he said. They ran for the Silent Promise, still docked to the station. Behind them, the reactor's warning alarms reached a fever pitch. The lights flickered and died, leaving only emergency lighting. The station was tearing itself apart. Tae-sung reached his ship and threw himself into the pilot's seat. His team piled into the passenger compartment. Bitna was last, diving through the airlock door just as Taesung fired the engines. The silent promise pulled away from Kepler Station. 5 seconds later, the reactor exploded. The station vanished in a ball of white light. The shockwave caught the small ship and threw it spinning. Alarms shrieked. The hull groaned under the stress, but the ship held together. Taesung fought the controls, slowly bringing the vessel under control. When the light faded, Kepler Station was gone. Just debris and scattered escape pods remained. "This is Taesung to Defiant Hope," he said into the radio. "All colonists are away." "We're coming home." "Acknowledged," Daewon's voice replied. Something in his tone had changed. Relief, yes. But also something else. Pride, maybe. "Well done, Captain." "Well done." The medical bay on Haven's Edge Station was filled beyond capacity. Colonists from Kepler Station occupied every bed, every chair, every spare piece of floor space. Dr. Hana moved between them, treating injuries and offering comfort. Most of the wounds were minor. Broken bones from the evacuation, burns from hull breaches, but the emotional trauma ran deeper. A young girl, maybe 7 years old, sat on a bed crying quietly. Her mother stood beside her, one arm in a sling. The girl's face was streaked with tears and dust. She had lost her favorite toy when they fled the station. It seemed like a small thing compared to everything else, but to her it was everything. Hana knelt beside the bed and gently wiped the girl's face. "What was your toy?" she asked softly. "A stuffed rabbit," the girl sniffed. "My dad gave it to me before he went to work in the mines. It was the last thing he gave me." Hana felt her chest tighten. Some of the miners had been in the deep shafts when the attack started. The communication systems failed before they could be warned. They were still down there when the station exploded. 23 people lost. The only deaths from the entire rescue operation, but each one was a tragedy. "I'm so sorry," Hana said. There were no other words that felt right. In the command center, Daewon faced a different kind of aftermath. The holographic display showed representatives from Earth's government, their faces stern and worried. The session had been going on for 3 hours. Everyone wanted to know what happened at Kepler Station. Everyone had opinions about what should happen next. "You started a conflict with the coalition," one representative argued. His name was Hyunwoo, a general from the old military establishment. "We withdrew to avoid exactly this kind of situation." "They attacked us first," Daewon replied, keeping his voice level. "They attacked civilians. What should I have done? Let them take hostages? You should have negotiated. You should have stalled. You should have found a diplomatic solution. There was no time for diplomacy. People were dying." Another representative spoke up. This was Soo-jin, an ambassador who had spent years working with alien species. "The Coalition High Command has issued a formal apology. Admiral Velcross has been arrested and stripped of command. The 2 captains who broke formation and refused to continue the attack are being quietly commended." "An apology," Daewon said bitterly. 23 people are dead. Kepler Station is destroyed, and they send an apology. What would you have us do?" General Hyunwoo asked. "Declare war on the entire coalition? We can't win that fight. We barely survived this encounter." Soo-jin raised her hand for calm. "There's a larger issue here. This attack proved that our neutrality isn't respected. Desperate coalition commanders see us as a resource to exploit. We need a new strategy." "We need to close the borders," Hyunwoo insisted. "Pull back all our colonies. Fortify the solar system. If we don't have people scattered across space, they can't be used against us. If we retreat to Earth, we give up everything we've worked for," Soo-jin countered. "We become prisoners in our own system. Is that the future we want?" The debate continued, voices rising. Daewon listened but said little. He understood both sides. Hyunwoo wanted safety through isolation. Soo-jin wanted to maintain humanity's place among the stars. Both had valid points. Neither had perfect answers. While the politicians argued, Bitna was in her workshop, deep in the technical sections of the station. She had recovered data cores from Kepler Station before the evacuation. Most were destroyed, but a few survived. Now she was carefully extracting their contents. The files she found made her eyes widen. Project Pacifier. The classified research that Velcros was so obsessed with. It turned out to be real after all, but it wasn't a weapon. Not in the way anyone expected. The scientists at Kepler Station had been studying crowd control technology. They took systems humans used for riot suppression and adapted them for space stations, sonic dampeners, Electromagnetic pulse generators tuned to disable weapons without harming people. Chemical compounds that cause temporary disorientation without lasting effects. The goal was to stop violence without causing death. A way to pacify aggressive individuals until they could be reasoned with. In tests, it worked incredibly well, too well. The researchers worried about the ethics of the technology. What if it was misused? What if oppressive governments used it to control their populations? So they classified it, buried it in security protocols, and inadvertently created the very rumors that led Velcros to attack. Bitna stared at the files for a long time. This technology could change everything. In the Coalition's war against the Vreth Swarm, it could save millions of lives. Both sides could be neutralized without slaughter. Soldiers could go home to their families instead of dying in distant battles. But releasing it was dangerous. Once it existed in the galaxy, there was no controlling how it would be used. She uploaded the files to a secure server and sent a message to Daewon. He needed to see this. The decision about what to do with Project Pacifier was too big for any one person. That evening, Daewon gathered a small group in a private conference room. Bitna, Dr. Hana, Captain Taesung, and a few senior advisors. He showed them the files from Project Pacifier. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the implications. If we reveal this technology, the Coalition will demand we share it, Hana said finally. They'll say it's our moral obligation, that we could stop the war. And if we don't reveal it, we're no better than the Kepler researchers who buried it, Taesung added. People are dying every day in that war. We have something that could save them. An advisor named Wu Jin spoke up. But we'd become a target again. Every faction in the galaxy would want this technology, for good reasons and bad reasons. We'd be right back where we started, caught in everyone else's conflicts. Daewon rubbed his tired eyes. The weight of command had never felt heavier. Is there a middle path? A way to use this technology without handing it over completely? Bitna pulled up technical specifications. We could build the devices ourselves, offer them as a humanitarian service, but keep the core technology secret. That way we control how it's used. That still makes us participants in the war, Wu Jin objected. We'd be choosing who to help and who to stop. The debate continued late into the night. Every option had problems. Every choice had consequences. Meanwhile, something unexpected was happening throughout the station. Word had spread among the refugees and colonists about what humanity had done. They had risked everything to save 847 people. They had fought the Coalition fleet. They had stood up to a superior force because it was right, and other species noticed. The communication logs started filling with unusual messages. Deserters from Coalition forces requesting asylum. Conscientious objectors asking for sanctuary. Civilians fleeing war zones begging for safety in human space. One message caught Dr. Hana's attention. It was from the blue-armored Coalition soldier that Taesung had fought at Kepler Station. His name translated to something like Kilran. He had been arrested after the battle for refusing to continue following Velcros' orders. Now he was facing execution for treason. I fought against you, the message read. But you showed me mercy when you had every reason to kill me. Your people are different. You fight for something more than territory or resources. You fight for each other. I want to understand that. I want to learn from that. Please grant me asylum, Hana brought the message to Daewon. He read it twice, thinking hard. If we accept him, others will follow, he said. We'll become a refuge for everyone who's tired of the war. Is that so bad? Hana asked. It's complicated. We wanted to escape the war. Now we're going to invite it into our space? No, Hana said. We're inviting the people who want to escape it too. There's a difference. Daewon thought about the young girl who lost her stuffed rabbit. He thought about the 23 miners who died in the deep shafts. He thought about Kilran, a Coalition soldier who risked everything to do what he thought was right. Maybe humanity's strength wasn't in their weapons or their ships. Maybe it was in their stubborn refusal to become what the galaxy expected them to be. Warriors. Conquerors. Just another species fighting for survival at any cost. What if humanity could be something else? What if they could be the place where the war stopped? Where people came to remember what they were fighting for in the first place? It was a dangerous idea. A difficult idea. But looking around at the faces of his crew, Daewon saw something he hadn't seen in months. Hope. Tell Kilran his asylum is granted, Daewon said. And prepare a general announcement. Human space is now open to refugees.
Anyone who wants to escape the war?
Anyone who's willing to live in peace, Hana smiled. The Coalition won't like that. The Coalition can adapt, Daewon replied. We're not their soldiers anymore. We're not their enemies. We're something new. Let them figure out what to do with that. 6 months after Kepler Station's destruction, Captain Tae-sung stood on a small moon called Refuge Point. The name was new, chosen by the first refugees who arrived. Before that, it was just Survey Moon 447, a worthless rock that nobody wanted. Now it was becoming something else entirely. Temporary shelters dotted the lunar surface, protected by atmosphere domes that Bitna's engineering teams installed. Ships arrived daily, carrying refugees from a dozen different species. Some were deserters from coalition forces. Others were civilians fleeing war zones. All of them came seeking the same thing, a place where the fighting stopped. Tae-sung watched as another transport landed. The cargo ramp lowered and a group of Thex warriors emerged, their blue armor stripped of military markings. Kilran was among them, now serving as a liaison between refugees and human administrators. He raised a hand in greeting as he approached. 15 more today, Kilran said. His English had improved dramatically over the months. All former coalition soldiers, all willing to renounce violence and follow human protocols. How are they adapting? Tae-sung asked. Better than expected. Most of them are just tired. They've been fighting for so long they forgot what peace feels like. Kilran paused. Your people are giving them that back. On Haven's Edge Station, Dr. Hana ran what was quickly becoming the most unusual organization in the galaxy. The Haven Initiative, they called it. Part refugee agency, part cultural exchange program, part peace movement. Every day brought new challenges and new miracles. Today's challenge walked into her office in the form of 2 species representatives who hated each other. A Vesk hunter and a Dendari merchant. Their peoples had been at war for 3 generations. Now they both wanted asylum in human space, and according to Haven Initiative rules, they had to agree to coexist peacefully. The meeting did not start well. I will not share space with this murderer, the Vesk snarled, his scaled face contorted with rage. His people bombed my colony. My family died. My people only responded to Vesk aggression, the Dendari replied coldly. Her multiple arms gestured sharply. You started the war. We merely survived it. Hana held up her hands. I understand your pain, both of you. But here's the reality. If you want to stay in human space, you follow human rules. No violence. No threats. No continuing the wars you left behind. How can you ask us to forget? The Vesk demanded. I'm not asking you to forget. I'm asking you to stop. There's a difference. Hana pulled up images on her screen. This is Kepler Station. This is what happened when war came to human space. 23 people died. Hundreds were traumatized. All because someone decided their fight was more important than civilian lives. She let them look at the images. The devastation. The refugees. The faces of families torn apart. Humans could have responded with revenge. Hana continued. We could have declared war on the coalition. Started our own cycle of violence. Instead, we chose this. We chose to create a space where the war stops, where people can remember what it's like to live without fear. The Vesk and Dendari looked at each other. The hatred was still there, simmering beneath the surface. But something else emerged too. Exhaustion. A bone-deep weariness that came from fighting for so long. What do you want from us? The Dendari asked quietly. I want you to try, Hana said. Try to coexist. Try to talk instead of fight. Try to remember that your enemy is a person too, with families and fears and dreams. If it doesn't work, you're both free to leave. But if it does work, maybe you become proof that peace is possible. They agreed to try. It was a small victory, but Hana had learned to treasure those. Change happened slowly, one conversation at a time. Back on Earth, the political situation remained tense. General Hyunwoo led the opposition to the Haven Initiative, arguing it made humanity a target. Ambassador Sujin defended it, claiming it was humanity's best chance at long-term security. The debate played out in government chambers and news broadcasts. But something interesting was happening in public opinion. The footage from Kepler Station had spread across human space. Images of Commander Daewon's fleet fighting to save civilians. Videos of Taesung's team evacuating terrified colonists. Stories of human mercy toward coalition soldiers who surrendered. Humanity saw itself in those images. not as warriors, not as victims, but as people who stood up for what was right, even when it was difficult. Support for the Haven Initiative grew. Volunteers applied to work at Refuge Point. Donations poured in to build more shelters. Human colonists on other worlds started their own smaller refuge programs. The movement was becoming something bigger than anyone planned. Bitna made her own contribution to the cause. After months of debate, Day One had finally decided what to do with Project Pacifier. They wouldn't hide it. They wouldn't give it away. Instead, they created the Kepler Foundation, named after the lost station. The foundation operated independently from any government. Its mission was simple: develop and deploy peaceful technologies that prevented violence without causing harm. The pacifier systems were the first technology they released, but Bitna was already working on others. Medical devices that could treat injuries from any species, communication systems that worked across language barriers, shelter designs that could be built quickly on any world. The Foundation offered these technologies freely to refugees and war-displaced populations, but they kept the technical specifications secret, preventing them from being weaponized or monopolized. It was a delicate balance, but it was working. 1 year after Kepler Station's destruction, Haven's Edge hosted a memorial service. The observation deck was filled with people: human colonists from Kepler Station, refugees from a dozen species, military personnel who fought in the rescue operation. Commander Day One, now promoted to Admiral, stood before them. In the center of the deck sat a piece of twisted metal, salvaged from Kepler Station's wreckage. Engineers had carefully preserved it and mounted it as a monument. "We gather to remember," Day One said, his voice carrying through the silent crowd. "To remember the 23 miners who died. To remember the station we lost. To remember the day everything changed." He paused, looking at the faces around him. Human and alien, former enemies standing side by side. Kepler Station was destroyed because someone thought war was more important than peace. Because someone thought weapons were more valuable than lives. Because someone forgot that behind every statistic, every casualty report, every strategic objective, there are people, real people with families and hopes and dreams. The crowd murmured in agreement. The coalition came to our station demanding that we return to their war. They thought we withdrew because we were weak or scared. They didn't understand the truth. Day One placed his hand on the salvaged metal. We didn't escape the war by running from it. We escaped it by refusing to become what the galaxy expected: fighters, killers. Just another species scrambling for dominance. He straightened, looking out at the gathered assembly. Today I'm proud to announce that Refuge Point has reached capacity. 5,000 refugees from 14 species now call it home. They live in peace. They work together. They're proving that the galaxy can be more than an endless battlefield. Applause rippled through the crowd. Kilran stepped forward, representing the refugee community. "I was a soldier," Kilran said, his translator converting his words. "I fought for the Coalition for 12 years. I killed enemies I never met. I followed orders I didn't question. When I encountered humans at Kepler Station, I expected them to be like every other species. I expected them to kill me." His 4 eyes swept across the assembled humans. Instead, they showed mercy. They took me prisoner but treated me with dignity. When I faced execution for refusing illegal orders, they granted me asylum. They taught me that war is a choice, not a destiny. He turned to face the monument. This metal came from a place where humans could have chosen revenge. They could have declared war on my people. Instead, they built this. He gestured around Haven's Edge. A place where war stops, where enemies become neighbors, where the future is something more than endless fighting. Dr. Hanna spoke next, sharing stories of refugee families reuniting, of former enemies learning to work together, of children from different species playing games together, not caring about the wars their parents fought. When the speeches ended, they unveiled a plaque on the monument. It read, "In memory of Kepler Station and the 23 souls lost. They came to destroy our home. We chose to save their souls instead. This is why humans escape war, not by running from it, but by refusing to become it." After the ceremony, Taesung found Day One standing alone at the observation window. The pilot joined him, looking out at the stars. "Do you think it will last?" Taesung asked. "The peace we're building?" Day One considered the question. "I don't know. Maybe we're just delaying the inevitable. Maybe the war will find us eventually. But maybe it won't," Taesung countered. "Maybe what we're doing here spreads. Maybe other species see that there's an alternative. Maybe we start something that outlasts us. Daewon smiled slightly. Maybe. They stood in comfortable silence watching ships come and go from the station. Each one carried refugees seeking sanctuary. Each one represented hope. The war between the Coalition and the Vreth Swarm continued. Battles raged across distant worlds. Soldiers died,